Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third installment of Code is Not a Prerequisite. I am Christy White, all things marketing at MediaTech Ventures, and I am super excited for today's chat. Again, we're going to be welcoming our guest Satish, and we're going to be talking about the 5 technology mistakes that every startups make. And keep in mind, there are probably more, but these are the ones that come to mind consistently. These are the ones that we keep seeing, and we want to support and help those startups that, again, you don't necessarily need to know how to code to run a tech startup, but it helps to actually know a little bit about what you're doing, understanding how to build a team, and understanding the pitfalls that you might come across so that you can have a clear line of sight as you move forward in your startup. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Satish Kamsali with Imaginnovate, our amazing partners. Welcome, Satish.
Hey, Christy.
Hello, good evening. It's good morning for us. We each have our coffees and teas, so it's a good job. Thank you
Yeah.
for joining us and for putting this together for our startups and our entrepreneurs. It's
Mhm.
it's great to have. I know Imaginnovate like support startups in a much more a deep way, and not just a they're our clients, but we want to actually see them succeed, and
Mhm.
that's the heart of it right there.
Exactly.
So please introduce yourself. I will excuse myself. I am excited to get into the meat of hearing everything you have to say. So welcome, and there you go.
Awesome. Thanks, Christy, for the introduction. Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of our webinar series. Code is not a prerequisite to run a tech startup as a non tech founder. So, in this webinar, we'll be learning about 5 technology mistakes that usually founders do while they're working on a startup. Okay. Before we get into the details of the startup and the topic for the day, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Satish Kamsali, team manager at Imaginnovate. We do work with startups right from the ideation stage to the very last stage of the maturity and the exit. Okay, and it's been more than 10 years me working in this industry, IT industry, and five years I've been working with the startups, and I've joined the IT industry as an Android developer with the passion on the mobiles. But again, uh, along with the possibilities and the opportunities that I've got, I have transitioned into multiple positions, and right now I'm working as a team manager, leading a team of 20 developers. Okay, so without further ado, let's look at the topic for the day. Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay. Okay. So today we are going to look at 5 technology mistakes every startup makes uh, in the initial stages. Okay. So in this webinar, you'll be learning about the following 5 mistakes that each startup does. Most of the startup does: becoming preoccupied with keeping your idea as a secret, and hiring poorly. The third one is micromanaging your team. The fourth one is not understanding the scope triangle, and the fifth one is not listening to the customers. So coming to the first topic for the day: becoming preoccupied with keeping your idea and secret. So most of the founders do put a lot of effort and time to understand the pain points of the users, and trying to solve an issue that's already existing in the community, or that's been affecting people and consuming a lot of time doing the same redundant work again and again. They would like to bring in something that disrupts the market. So we, as a founder, you do put a lot of effort in building the idea and also working on the startup. But again, it's important to understand, like, what can be the cons of keeping your idea as a secret. Okay, so the couple of things that usually comes to mind when you're actually keeping the idea of a startup as a secret. The first one is most of the time you come to an assumption that your idea is going to be a virality of after you kind of push this project product to the market, and everyone is going to accept it as per what you have designed and developed. Okay, but again, in terms of reality, you're testing your product against so many criteria there, like the age, different age groups that you're going to target, different professions that professional users that you're going to work with, and the type of transactions that are going to happen in your platform. So that's one assumption that we see most with the founders. And the second one is overprotecting your idea. So as I said, it's really valuable of what you have put together and come to resolve an issue or fix or moving towards any unconventional method to automate one of the existing process that happens in a redundant way. So that's really important and it's valuable. But again, you should protect the core logic on how you are going to implement this idea, but not hide it as a secret that you cannot share with the world. So it's important to go ahead and share your idea on what it's going to resolve and how it's going to work, but not how it is defined internally. Okay. Now, the third mistake that they do is not validating your proof of concept or prototype with the stakeholders. So it's important for as a startup founder to create proof of concepts and prototypes that will help your users, that can be end users and any other stakeholders, to envision like what you're trying to build and how they are receiving this as a product. So this brings us to the three P's that will help you refine your ideas and thoughts. Okay, so it's important to share your idea with others, not just your friends and family, but also to others who are not in your close network, and also are industry related people, like anyone who is related to the domain that you are going to build a startup, and start collaborating with them and understanding their use case. Now, the three P's that will help you refine your ideas and thoughts. One is personal. So while you're building a startup, it's important to make sure that the users that you're working with, or the early adopters that you're working with, do have a personal aspect that is related to your product, and they're willing to spend the time to understand more about the product. And they the product that you're bringing should be perceptible. Like the users should be able to see a difference before they use your product, and what's the advantage they are getting after using the product. So that's a perceptible thing that you need to build. And the third one is, no matter how personal you make it and how perceptible changes you would like to notify for the users before and after the usage, it's important that the product that you're building is practical, not only just to use, but also to learn the steps that are required to walk through the product or use the product. Okay. Now, that's about the first topic. So it's important to share your thoughts with as many people as you can, and specifically with the thought leaders in the domain or the industry. First, suppose if you're working on an e-commerce solution, it's important that you go ahead and share your thoughts and ideas that you think are unique to the platform, and test them with some of the people who already have a knowledge on that. So that will help you refine the ideas. Okay, and taking to the next topic for the day, or the next mistake, is hiring poorly. So this is one of the most commonly made mistake by the founders from what we have seen so far. So so with an enthusiasm to work on a product, founders tend to hire people who are not fit for the startup or for the stage of the startup that they are in. Okay, so let's look at a couple of things that are related to the startup hiring. So it's important to hire the tech team or any other resources that are related to the startups as per the requirements. And this, the first point is hiring people who do not share belief in your vision. So as you're a founder working on a startup and you are beginning a new journey, So the next immediate person whom you're going to onboard or hire to the team should share the vision for sure, because they'll be an extension of your thought process and also ideology. So make sure they are aligned with your vision and they believe in your vision. Okay? And they do not deviate from the final goal that you are setting up for the product. Now, the second point is hiring a tech founder or a tech team who does not meet the startup requirements. So, as a startup, there are different stages in the startup that you need to keep in mind, and any tech founder or the tech team that you are involving at any point in the startup development should be aware of what that particular stage requires and what can be done about that. First, suppose if you're working on ideation, your team needs to spend a lot of time doing research on what other competitors are implementing, what are the standard approaches that are being followed in the industry, and how you can make existing process a much more efficient one. Okay? The type of approaches that founders usually take is either they take a tech founder at a very high CTC and let them lead a technology team who can be the individual developers or the freelancers. And the problem with this is even if you hire a CTO, if they're not on board with your vision, they're going to drive the technology team into a different direction and you'll have some issues there. And the second approach most of the founders do is they reach out to freelancers for developing their product, which is not recommended because you're not working with an entity, and your product development resource code is actually being shared to a person who is not an entity and not reliable. So it's important to work with an entity and organization who are always available for you and who takes the responsibility for your product. Now, the next one is hiring a tech team who does the job as a tech founder and also provides a team who develops the product for you. Now, that's an easy way, but again, it's important that the tech team does understand what are the approaches that are relevant and maintained or managed as a standard for the industry. Okay, so that way you don't have to keep spoon feeding all the details about the domain or the stage of the startup you are, and the details that are required to make your product much more successful and efficient. Okay. Now, coming to the third point, as most of these startups do look for the dev team at very low cost, but again, that's not recommended because since you are putting a lot of effort and time into building something that you believe in and that's going to change the existing scenarios, then it's important that you put in an decent amount of development cost that is in terms of resources and also the development team. So consider an example where you're trying to build something with a cheap development, with a low cost development team for around $20 per hour development. They do around 1200 hours of development, and you don't end up with an MVP. Uh, and they don't take the responsibility for that because you're paying very low. On the other hand, you can also go ahead and look for a moderate development team who can deliver the product for you at a moderate cost, but also are reliable and can be scaled at any point you want. So it's important to look for the dev team who are reliable, who are flexible, and can be scaled at any point of time as per your needs. Now, the last point is hire as and when you need a specific skill set. Now, this is really important to understand that as a startup, you do have a lot of constraints. That's in terms of cost and resources. So, the type of resources are not only the people that you're hiring, there are a lot of infrastructure resources like the cloud infrastructure is required. Then you have so many other things to look after, like the source code repository and things. So these do come at a cost, and for the startups, there are always limited period exemptions or the discounts that you have that you can opt in. Now, it's important that you make the right use of this and also include the team as per the skill set that you need at that point of time. For example, if you're working on a startup that's going to provide a solution, a mobile solution for the end user to book an appointment with the doctor. And right now you are at the ideation stage. So at this point, you may not require a designer to be in your team. All you need to do is work on the ideation stage, do research, and look at the market trends. Talk to your technology team and come up with a set of wireframes. Okay, and also at the end of the stage, you can work on the designs. But again, you don't need a full-time creative professional to do this work. So in the ideation stage or early startup stage, you can go ahead and hire a consultant who's going to spend X number of hours to create the visuals, the wireframes, and the UI designs for you. So that way, it just costs you for you to create the designs that are required, and at the same time, further down the road, when you need a full-time creative professional, you can hire them. So it's always best to hire the specific skill set as and when you need. Okay. Coming to the next topic for the day, which is the third mistake most of the founders do, is micromanaging your team. Micromanaging your team. Okay. So now that you have hired a technology team and you have an idea that you want them to build, it's important that you leave the technology aspects to the team to decide on themselves, because that's what they do and they know in and out of every approach they are going to follow. So always discuss the details on a high level, but do not get into a minute actions that they are doing on a daily basis. So it's really not recommended to get into their activities and try to define the approaches that they are doing. So the couple of mistakes that founders do is don't try to do everything yourself. So delegate some of your work as and when your team can help you with, because they are extension of your thoughts and also vision. So let me just give you an example. First, suppose if you are working on a product that's related to a sports application, then let the team handle on the designs and also the development approaches that they can bring forward in this particular option. Also, if another example is if they're working on an e-commerce application, and if you would like to build a payment method, then let the team decide on what are the possible payment options that are available currently in the market and which one is being used more, and let the designer look at the different competitor apps that are available and get back to you with the designs that are more user friendly and also efficient to build. Now, the technical team will also help you with checking the technical feasibility. So that way, you don't have to implement something and then see that it's not going to work for you technically and revert back to something else. So it's always easy and better way to delegate some of your tasks at any point of time to your team. Now, the second point is skipping development steps. So most of the development uh, standards, like at each step, is being defined by the development team for some reason. So it's important to not skip any of those development steps. First, suppose if a product is done with the MVP stage, we usually prefer them to have three different environments: stage, sandbox, and the production environment, which is a live version. And then the sandbox environment, which is the version where all the stable changes that are being developed by the team are moved for the user acceptance test that you can test along with early adopters. Then you have stage environment where the dev team is going to use to push constantly all the changes that they develop as and when that's completed for the quality analysis. So once the quality assurance is done, these changes from the stage environment are being moved to this sandbox environment, and that's when you get a notification to test the changes that are being implemented. Once you approve those changes, we move those changes to production. Now, sometimes sometimes startup founders would like to go ahead and move the changes right to the production after the development is done. Now, this is okay when you're working on an early stage, but again, as you start maturing your startup, it's important not to skip any development stages and verify the development at every stage as expected. So, if you're skipping a UAT, you'll find out that there are a couple of things that you have missed to capture in an implementation that can be a lot more costing you a lot more when it goes live to rework on that change and also communicating that change to the users. Now the third point is try to become a technical person. So uh, founders tend to see uh, not knowing a technical details as a loss, but it's not, because you do have lot of avatars to take, lot of hats to wear. So it's important that you understand the technology to a level where you can see have a visibility on what's happening, but not to a level where you get into the logic and define what's happening at each and every step. So that's going to be time consuming and also takes a lot of effort and time for you to understand those details. At the same time, you're stressing your team to share and make you understand those kind of details, which is going to be time consuming effort for them as well. Now, moving on to the fourth point is self-organizing teams. Organizing teams are efficient, so it's better to leave the team to take care of things that are related to the technology on their end. For suppose example, if you have completed your ideation stage, you have completed your MVP. Now that your product is live and people are using, the dev team might see a spike in the number of users joining the platform, and they might take a call to extend the infrastructure and create a scalable infrastructure, so that way you don't have a downtime for the users at any point of time. So it's really important to make sure that your team has everything they need to self-organize themselves, and also make sure the product is working as expected at any point of time and are efficiently working together. Okay, so moving on to the next mistake is not listening to your customers. So it's really important that you listen to your customers and start working with them. So in the early stages, when the whole startup kind of thing was new, people were following software development cycle, which was waterfall, where we collect the requirements, do the analysis, build the designs or the wireframes, and then work on the development, do a quality assurance, and then release the product live. But again, now, as per the current market and what's happening with all the types of users being accessing the online community and the mobile apps, the number of the users, the type of nature of the user, and different parameters such as region, age bracket, and these are going to affect. So the different type of users who are going to use the product. So you cannot create a defined goal and defined process at once and deliver that in a long shot. Instead, it's always important to break that into a small pieces and start delivering them. So very first mistake that most of the startups do is not embracing agility. So embracing agility means like instead of taking the whole time to build one super product and deliver in a very long time, what we do is we build small chunks of the enhancements or the features that are incremental value of your product. So first, suppose if you're working on an e-commerce platform and you would like to go ahead and implement the payments as an option. So as per SLT, what you do is we implement a basic payment process initially. Then if you see a potential there, and if you see a product is being bought a lot, and if there's a way that you would like to go ahead and make it recurring, so you understand that the product is being bought a lot of time by a particular user, you provide an option for them to keep reordering automatically in the backend at every particular period of time. So things like this are a small incremental value. You cannot foresee the nature or the expectations of the user more than 6 months. So it's always important to break your solutions into smaller implementations or smaller updates and start adding an incremental value to the product, to the core product. Now, the second point is build solutions based on user feedback. As I said, so you'll be working on a product for a shorter period of time, then pushing those changes to the production so that live users can use it. Now, the live users are going to get back to you with a lot of feedback that's going to refine your product. So it's important to provide proper channels for them, and all the feedback that's been gathered from those channels, you take that, analyze on how frequently these things are being requested by the clients, and then build those into the solutions. The third point is keep validating the ideas with future or potential customers. So most of the startups do tend to lean more towards the existing customers, making them comfortable, understanding their nature, and also looking at what is required to keep them safe and retain those customers. But also, it's important to look at who are the future and potential customers that you can onboard to your platform and what is required for them to onboard. First, suppose if you're working on a solution where you're providing a nutritious food to individuals at a retail level, uh, there might be a better opportunity for you to consider a B2B solution where you can onboard all the employees of a company and you can provide the same food or the nutrition products at a discounted price. Here you are targeting a lot of number of it. You may not earn the same sort of profit on a single unit, but again, as a whole, you are enrolling a lot of customers and also creating a relationship with the business as well. So it's always important to not only listen to the existing customers, but also look at the potential customers who can be your clients going forward. And the next point is watch out for the changes in the domain that might impact your startup success. So, so it's important to keep the development duration at any stage of a startup as minimal as possible, and see how the trends have been changing. Okay, if you see there's potential that your startup might be impacted by any change in the environment, such as in the real world, such as COVID or anything, it's important to adapt to those changes and plan accordingly. First, suppose if there's no option for the users to go out and buy the groceries, it's important that as a grocery store or a solution provider for the grocery store, you provide options to the end users to order the food or the groceries directly to your home. So it's important to keep track of the changes that are happening in the domain and plan accordingly. Now, the next and the last mistake that most of the founders we have seen are doing is not understanding the scope triangle. Now, the scope triangle is consisting of three main trade-offs: time, cost, and scope, that are common to any project development. So, any change or any type of differences or imbalance between these three trade-offs is going to affect the quality and also put a lot of effort and stress on the rest of the two parameters. First, suppose if you are extending your scope to accommodate a lot of users, but not providing a time or cost to get that particular of development completed by the dev team, it's going to affect the quality. They're going to rush to complete all the changes that you are queuing for the dev team, but the quality that you will be getting is not going to be as expected. So time here is actually the time that is required for the dev team to complete the entire product. Scope is all about the kind of changes and the implementations that you would like to have in your product, and the cost is proportionate to the users, proportionate to the resources that are being used for the product, and it keeps increasing as you add the resources. Okay. So it's important to balance all these three things and make sure the quality does match the industry standards, and you provide hassle-free experience for the end user. Okay. So understanding scope triangle will be a lot helpful, and learning about the scope triangle will let you understand the importance of launching a product in perfect time. So it's important not to wait too long to launch a perfect product. So most of the founders would like to go ahead and do a development in a long time duration and see how that goes when a product is launched as an MVP, minimum viable product. But again, instead of that, what we can do is the much more efficient way is for a startup, a 3 months duration is more than enough to create the core functionality of the product. So it will be much better if you can build an MVP with the core functionalities and start doing an incremental value addition to your product. So one of the best approach is lane development, where you define what is immediate necessity for you to go for the launch, and from there, as per the user feedback and the kind of ideas that you get that are related to upcoming opportunities or things like that, you keep on adding, looking at the trends on how long lasting that particular change will be there. Okay. And the next one is do not overpromise or underdeliver to your end users or the clients. So if you're working on a product solution and you're trying to uh, work on a product, work on a feature that's going to take a lot of time, and you are promising a particular time to them on an event or something like that, it's important to keep the details as realistic as possible and make sure the client understands the kind of effort that is involved in developing those changes, and also make sure that you deliver as promised but not under deliver. The third point is trying to win over everyone. So it's important to not only to identify different types of target audience that you might see, or different characteristics that you might find in a particular user, but again, it's important to understand what's the majority type of users are going to expecting you from the platform. Okay. So it's important that you fix the problem, or you find a solution for the tier one audience, so that you don't miss out the big pie. If, for suppose example, there's a smaller part of audience who are willing to go ahead and explain to you on an idea that's not going to be relevant to the larger audience, and it takes a lot of effort to develop, then it doesn't make sense for you to go ahead and develop that feature into the product, because it's going to take a lot of time and effort. For example, most of the products are right now being delivered on a being delivered through e-commerce platforms, and the modes of payment are kind of credit, debit, and also net banking, and you can also go ahead and pay through cryptocurrencies right now. But again, if you see that the kind of product that you're delivering is of high value, and if you provide a cash on delivery option, it's going to be a risk factor. But again, some people are really expecting you to provide the cash on delivery, because they would like to see the product first and then pay you in cash. Then it doesn't make sense, because you are putting a lot of risk, because you are delivering a high value product to the end user, whom you're not sure whether he's going to pay or not. Two, it's just going to please a small set of audience who may not really be sticking with you a long time. So it's always important that you try to solve the problem that tier one audience or the large number of audience are facing, but not to the every single detail or every single problem that end users are going to use. Okay. So that a topic today, the five mistakes about this that most of the founders do, is complete. Okay. So I'll give you a brief about our organization, Imaginnovate. So we have been working with startups for more than 10 years right now. And our experience with startups has been in the beginning with the mobile apps. Then we have started looking into other directions as well, like the mobile applications and also augmented reality. So we have worked with more than 50 startups, And the startups that we have worked with have generated more than $10 million in cumulative revenue. And then there are 10 high growth startups growing year on year, 100%. That can be in terms of user base and also revenue. Then we have six startups who have each raised a minimum of $1 million in funding. Nice. So some of our notable clients are Blended Sense, Angeli, You Earned It, Bidops, Unitag, Calypso, AutoThink, Billy Nutrition, and many more. So we did start with our base as Austin. Now we are spreading up across different regions in US and different states. So, with all the experience that we have with the startups, we have worked with more than 50 startups as of now. So, we did identify that there are six verticals where we have spent a lot of effort and provided a lot of solutions and services to the startups, which are MediaTech, MedTech, EdTech, e-commerce, lifestyle, and mobility tech. We also work with startups who are not who does not come into these verticals. But again, in these verticals, we do have a lot of domain knowledge, which can be helpful for the startups. Now, moving on to the next. So we have mobile application development, which can be native and also hybrid. In native, we have iOS and Android application development. In hybrid, we work on Flutter and React Native. For web application development, we work on Node.js, ROR, and .NET Java. For front-end application development, we work on React.js, AngularJS, and Vue.js. And we also have DevOps and Cloud Infrastructure Architect internally. So how do we build help startups, or how do we engage with startups? So with startups, we do have a couple of engagement styles. One is tech analysis. We do a tour analysis of your technology and get back to you with a quick feedback on what are the existing things that you have and what needs to be changed. And then we do have a discovery session, which is a deep diving into your ideation stage, understanding what your vision, goal, and strategy is. Then we come up with a document that's going to help you with a technology strategy, understanding how you should plan for the technology, and then development roadmap on when and how the deliverables will be made and when these features will be moved to production, and then the implementation plan. Now, coming to development, we work on prototypes, minimum viable products, and project based that can be fixed price and time and material. We also work with startups who are already collaborating with a third party vendor for a solution for creating the solutions or the IT. Or we also work with the startups who already have an internal team but would like to go ahead and hire a couple of more developers for their team to strengthen. And the last kind of service that we provide is technology consulting, where we do a deep dive understanding of your technology status every 3 months, and we get back to you with a report. Okay, so that's all about today's webinar. Hope you have enjoyed. Just in case you have any queries, please feel free to ask. Okay.
Excellent. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Great, because my headset halfway through goes dying. Oh my crap. Oh, that was amazing. Thank you so much. We had one guest that actually asked, will the presentation be replayable? Yes, you can actually find this presentation on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We'll also be placing the presentation slide decks on the MediaTech.Ventures website. You can go visit Satish Kamsali's profile and you'll be able to see all of the documents there. But there's just so much you said in there that was gold. I have to point out just one of them very specifically is listen to your customers and know that your customer might not necessarily be your customer in 6 weeks. So it's that leaning towards MVP and actually listening to people that I think most startups forget. Startup founders, they have this idea in their head that this is what I want and it's going to be this way, and maybe it ends up that way, but nine times out of 10, it's
Yeah.
completely different. And so I can't stress that listen to your customers and actually talk to people and ask them their opinions and take that to heart because they're the ones using your product every day and they're the ones that are going to buy into it. And so getting opinion is important. I can't stress that enough. I love that you went over that in depth for everyone. The other was understanding the scope triangle. Like this was something that I hadn't seen presented in this way. And yes, time, cost, scope, quality. It's you can't have something that's both quick and high quality and low cost. Like there's
Yeah.
going to be a balance of everything. So I loved that. Thank you so much for that. Has there been a particular situation where you've seen the founder just wanted it their way and maybe this might be going down a different direction we don't want to talk about, but it's good to give examples of where
Yeah.
others have stumbled. Has there
Mhm.
been a founder that has just been set in their ways on the tech and it just didn't work out or it did? Like you've worked with a number of different startups. There any examples you can give us of a really big what not to do?
So there have been a couple of clients that we have worked with. They might seem to be stubborn with what they are trying to get to be developed or delivered in time. But again, the couple of reasons is there might be a couple of events that they are lined up and they want to launch a particular update or a product in the particular time. But again, it's important to understand either you have to add additional number of resources or choose the priority, like what is the most priority implementation that you want to put in the first bracket, then the next. So in that way, even if time doesn't you don't increase the resources or the time, but again you have something that's most important to you already pushed to the production or the live before the event is okay. I've seen founders who really persistent about what they need in the product. In a way, that's good. But again, if we can give a reason to the founders, like this is why you need to slow down and take things in a different direction on, and bring in more stakeholders. Let's look at who's going to use the application, what's their input. So that's going to make them understand a bit. So there's always a second thought to this. Okay, it's
Mhm.
important to bring all the elephants in a single room and let them share their thoughts. That's going to bring a state of mind change.
I absolutely agree. So I'd like to touch on your first point, which was keeping your product a secret. I
Yes.
can't tell you how many startups say, well, I have an idea. They come in and they pitch us, and they're like, I have a MediaTech idea, but you need to sign an NDA first.
Hmm.
Nope. Bye. Like you have an idea, like your idea technically has no value right now. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing, there's no substance to it. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
Keeping it a secret, I find it is one of the biggest pitfalls in that they want to hold this idea nice and close, but in doing so it's to their own detriment. Is there anything that you could speak to that and how can they skirt the line between giving enough information but not giving too much information so that they
Yeah.
feel like they're still protecting what it is that they're creating but still keeping it open to the right people without the legal documentation that goes with that.
I think the best way to do that is highlight the problem that you're trying to solve,
Mhm.
but not the logic behind the solution that you are building. Okay.
Okay. Actually,
So
that's the simplest answer ever. Yes. They need to know what it is you're creating and how you're, not necessarily how you're
how
solving it. Yes.
exactly? Because you don't want to give out the entire information, but it's important to share like what they can expect from your solution. Like, say for suppose you're trying to build an e-commerce platform, okay, and that's going to pull up the products as per your Google search. So for suppose you have linked in your Google account to your
Mhm.
desktop and you have searched for a couple of things in the Google, okay, and when I open that particular e-commerce application, if you want the user to see, okay, you can just say that this is how it's going to work, but not give the technical information or the logic behind it. Like, we are going to look into your Google account, then we are going to get the products that you have searched for, then we are going to show the list. So this is too much detail right now. Okay.
Mhm.
So you don't need that kind of details to be shared with the team. Okay.
So if you get asked, how does it work?
Mhm.
Is there a recommendation for how to gently tell them that they're going to have to invest further into you before you give
That's
them
what
the
we are
how?
figuring out. Yeah.
Huh?
That is what we are figuring out, and
Yeah.
we are looking at possible solutions X, Y, Z, but not giving the exact answer. Okay. Uh, Now, the kind of details that you would like to share depends upon the people that you're talking about. First of all,
Okay.
if you're trying to talk to your technology team, you need to give them an in-depth understanding of what you're trying to solve, okay, and give them all the details like what needs to be solved. But again, they are going to define how it's going to happen. What is the technical feasibility of the thought process that you're bringing in? Are there any standard approaches that are already in place, or is there something that unique we can build? Okay, I'll give you an example. First, suppose if there's a feature that you would like to build, and that feature requires three important steps to be built. Okay, and if one of them is already available as a technology library already out there, so it's always go ahead and take it if it's less cost, and embed that and build the rest two steps. Okay, so that kind of support you'll be getting from the technical team. But when you're talking to your customers, it's always important, customers or the end users or other competitors or anyone else, it's important to keep like just a crisp idea of what we are trying to solve and what will be the end output. And this is how we think it might change the way. Okay.
Okay.
But not-
So it's really holding on to your why and what
yes.
it is, the value of it all.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my next one is that hiring poorly. Oh, have I been there? Because you meet someone and they ideally might have the skill set that you're
Mhm.
looking for, right? But they don't share your vision. Or
Exactly.
they understand your vision and they want to help, but they really can't give you anything, contribute anything other than their opinion.
Yeah.
That balance is really hard to find in those team members.
Yeah.
Is there any extra advice that you could give to someone who's trying to find that team that can support them in their vision, but also give them that skill set?
Got it. Just don't rush to hire people just because you like them, or if just because they have the required skill set. As a startup, there are so many challenges that you might face. That can be financial, that can be legal, and there can be so many challenges that you might face. So the immediate team member that you are going to hire should believe in your vision, okay, and they should start contributing and show some sort of interest even before you invest in them. Okay, I'll give an example. First, suppose you are reaching out for a CEO, a CTO, okay, because you are non-tech founder, you're trying to reach out for a CTO because you think that's going to solve the
Mhm.
entire problem for you, okay? But it's not going to happen in future because the reason why they are onboarding is if it's just money, they're just going to stay until you have the money, okay? There might be a time when you need to squeeze in a little bit of effort and time, then they might not be doing that. So it's important that you get the right amount of domain knowledge, understanding, overlapping of your vision, aligned with your thoughts. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, so it's important to set the guidelines, as I said earlier in the previous presentation. You need to set the guardrails and the principles in place so that they understand you are going to set the end goal, but again, they can contribute by having your mandate at each step. Okay, they cannot be a loose cannon at any point of time. That's where we see most of the friction coming between the founders.
Interesting. I have to agree. I find that those kind of rush in because they're desperate to find someone to fill the position, and it turns out that that person wasn't really bought into being a member of a startup, because that's
Mhm.
very different than having a job. And I think
Exactly.
that there's that you don't want a partner that's just in it for the job. They need to be
Exactly.
in it for the why, the whole concept of what you're creating. There's a deeper purpose to what you're doing, and they see that vision. And I find that more than not that the team members, though they might have the skill set, they're looking for a job. And in a startup, we both know that it is 24/7, 365 days a year, nonstop, whatever you need to do to get that vision up and off the ground and get it sold and make a change and make difference. And that is a hard pill to swallow for some people.
Yeah.
It can be. I I want to thank you so much for sharing your insights with us and your experience with startups. I know that this is valuable information that every startup that is trying to run a like be a tech founder without that kind of code and experience, it can be daunting. Like even
Mhm.
myself, like I said, I know enough to be dangerous, and I am guilty personally of a lot of these things in my own startups. So it's something now that get them getting to know the pitfalls ahead of time, ahead of
Mhm.
MVP. It's essential. I think this is, I mean, I love this information. I'm a big nerd about it. But I want to make sure that everybody knows, like, following this in January, we're actually going to be doing two more episodes. So January 11th will be our next one. After the new year, we're going to start building. So we're going to be talking about building your MVP the right way. So now in these last three episodes that you've kind of got the foundation of where you need to go, building your team, understanding the pitfalls to watch out for, we're now going to be talking about how to actually get that MVP up and going. Oh, we have a nice comment. Nice session, will be helpful for sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. I love that. Satish, thank you again. I'm going to call it a wrap. I can't wait for next year and everything we have coming up. And just as a reminder, everyone, you can get in touch with Satish at mediatech.ventures, and you can reach out to us if you have any questions. Like we're definitely interested in supporting startups, and we want to know what you need. So again, listen to your customers. That's you guys. Tell us if you're wanting something specific, if you're needing help with something, reach out. Mediatech.ventures/join. You can reach out directly to me or to Satish, and we will be able to help you. Thank you again, Satish, and to the Imaginnovate team. We love you guys. Y'all are amazing partners, and we can't
Awesome.
wait. Thank
Thank you, Christy. Thanks for your time.
you.